the aesthetics of the 15th century, where you find this kind of thinking in a person like Marsilio Ficino, a humanist, Neoplatonic philosopher. He said, this is beauty. What is beauty in dialectical thinking? It's the one in the many. The oneness that permeates the manyness. And that this again, the idea of the one in the many is the synthesis of dialectical thinking, the goal that it all leads towards, and allows you to begin the next cycle more or less encompassing and somewhat freed up from the previous impasses. Okay, so that moment of the unfinished business is like pre-messianic moment, very special moment. And in that sense, we could, this little parable here, this Torah commentary, immediately becomes obvious. Get closer to yourself, to the deepest depths of you, and get closer to every human being in the world. Right? Because the more you do this process of integrating the two sides, of many different sides of your personality, with this process of dialogues and identifications and contact and awareness and all that, rhythm of contact and withdrawal, the more you're getting into yourself, the more you're allowing your ego parts to, one after the other, to be negated. These negations are the negations. Remember, each of these parts that you're stuck in, x minus x, is a negation of the oneness you started out with in your, when you know, before you were born, you might say, and your origin and your moment of in the beginning, whatever that means. And here, all these negations are negated by this process, and more you're identifying with the emerging oneness and in the otherness, or the otherness and the oneness, or God in the world and God, or whatever you want to call it. And that way, all of the different othernesses that you could possibly conceive of, which includes just about everything and everybody you know, because so much of how we deal with people is just a collection of our own projections. You're getting closer to all of them. All these othernesses are being integrated at one time. So that's what it says here. Shlomo says, get closer to yourself, to the deepest depths of you. In other words, this moment of tzimtzum, where you contract your ego, allow these opposites to just die off one after the other, and get, at the same time, you're getting closer to every other human being in the world. Now, that's a logical explanation of some very fuzzy Shlomo Carlebach sentences here. All right? The other sentence in this one is here. If you're moving in the direction of God, the more you move up, the closer you move to people. Right. Right. This is the opposite of what the example of this guy, this person, you know, that now has contempt for you because that person has become so much more religious, or you have contempt for other people because you've become more religious. You know, when you walk around the street and just start rubbing your beard every time you see somebody who doesn't have a beard, you know, then that's the problem, not the solution. Okay. And this is another example. Abraham Avinu is entering the covenant of God. How close can you get? Right, this moment of unfinished business, just the pre-messianic moment where everything is ready to come together to a moment of enlightenment, if you're into thinking in Platonic terms, or explosion into authentic feelings and action, if you're into an Aristotelian thinking. Either way. So that's the idea of the covenant with God. And here's another code word. Just like the Holy Land is a code word for this complete dialectical process here, with total holiness. The word covenant also is another code word. And here's Shlomo using the word exactly the way he's supposed to use it according to the tradition. Abraham is entering the covenant of God. How close can you get? Right, that's the moment of unfinished business of Yisrael therapy. If it were any closer, you and your mother would disappear into this explosion of grief, or joy, or anger, or whatever needs to be dealt with in that relationship to bring the thing to catharsis. All right? So, how close can you get? This is as close as you could get and still be you, where the two sides of you are still pretty clear, but on the verge of identification with, becoming one with that oneness that's about to take over, and you can, if you allow yourself to surrender to it. So that's the logic here. Okay. Another sense here. This is one of the tests of Abraham Avinu, because the angels came to him and told him he's going to have a son. The test was, here he is, Abraham, this is according to Shlomo, Abraham has just become a Jew, all right? And all of a sudden come along three goyim with wings, and he has a conflict. Should I invite these people into my house or what? What about them? Now, if he's being tested, it's a perfect example of a moment of what we just said, some conflict, extreme opposites. Now, if Abraham would have avoided that moment, he would have missed out the chance to suffer, to complete the whole dialectical process, from thesis to antithesis to void to synthesis. But the three angels, because he took the risk of dealing with them, he completed the whole cycle, and as a reward, guess what he got? A baby, a son. And so he was being tested, and this is another key term that Shlomo uses throughout his book here. The idea of testing of Abraham, or testing of anybody, is just about a perfect parallel to the idea of tzimtzum, the idea of extreme opposites, and it's a code word for the Breslov's kabbalah, which emphasizes the void and the contact and withdrawal thing, and it tells you that it's not dealing with the other kind of kabbalah, where it's about rational synthesis and opposites that can be more easily dealt with. And it's come to think of it while we're at it, the opposite in this respect of the Chabadnik in the story here is not in Noach or Eve. Either Eve or Noach are people in Shlomo's interpretation that are very much preoccupied with either or. Eve is into the tree of knowledge, good and evil. It's got to be either this or that. That's called some kind of wisdom, but it's a false wisdom because it's not the tree of life. And Noach is into judging people. He agrees with God that everybody here should be destroyed. So he's again doing what we call in Koshtal therapy the top dog, underdog, judging relationship, rather than doing what Abraham does. Abraham is being tested, and he's the one who's able to complete the total, you might say, Breslaver dialectic, which includes the void. Okay? And the point Shlomo wants to make, he keeps citing of Abraham Avinu, our father, as the beginning, somehow the beginning of Judaism. Why? Because Abraham was the first one that took this trip of total annihilation of ego by getting totally involved in the opposites, the conflicts, the tzimtzum process, the testing, and allowed himself to go back to the origin of reality. If you want to give it a philosophical label, Plato calls it anamnesis. Not amnesis, forgetting. Not forgetting. In other words, going back to the basic ideas that you get to when you allow yourself to go through this process of opposites and going inside and finding new ideas. And little by little, the trail of associations lead you to the basic primary experiences or ideas or emotions or whatever you want to call them in your life that you are made up with. And these are, in a sense, the patriarchs of your life, your beginnings. All right? So your beginnings and the beginning of the Jewish people have converged. And in that sense, Abraham is the beginning of Judaism, and for all of us, because he is a paradigm case here, a person that suffers this tests and comes out on top each time, of course.